Hi everyone, sorry the Q&A is just a little bit late this week. I have a lot going on. I figured I would start with this question. It is a very stressful time in my life right now. I'm going through a lot. I have some personal things going on. Work is definitely interesting right now. I am trying my best to compartmentalize everything to protect my mental health right now. So I don't want my personal life to kind of cross over into work. And to me, this is all work. When the time is right, I will let you in on what's happening in my life and how I deal with all of this being self-employed when there's things going on in your personal life that either prevent you from working, that are difficult times of change. So I'll talk you guys all through that when the time is right, but now is not the time. So thank you very much for asking, and I'm glad you are enjoying all the content. I would not be able to choose one brand of foundation for when I'm working on set versus when I'm working a wedding, because I choose my foundations based on the look that my clients want, based on the job that I'm doing, based on my client's skin type, how the end result should look. So there isn't one answer to this. Foundations that I love that I use in my kit that I'm using very regularly right now are Face Atelier. I'm using the Makeup Forever HD liquid as more of my long wearing fuller coverage option. I'm also using NARS Light Reflecting, and I've been recently using the Maybelline Skin Tint as well a lot. So those are the brands right now that I'm reaching for the most in my kit. I just go to social. I am on TikTok, Pinterest, YouTube. I'm constantly scrolling just to check out new things, new products. I try not to follow specific people. I just like to do a general search on the different social media platforms to see what's trending, what's going on, if there's any new products, new application techniques, certain looks that I'm interested in. That's usually where I go. After I clean and disinfect my brushes, I put my brushes in a food dehydrator to dry. I use a Hamilton Beach. It's kind of a rectangular shape food dehydrator, and I set it at 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours, and all of my brushes are dry in that time. This is kind of a tricky one to answer because there's a lot of things to consider. So technically, if you don't have written proof or a written agreement, you can't use someone's image for advertising your work. Now, verbal agreements are fine in a lot of situations, and a lot of people aren't going to come after you if you use their image on a social media post or whatever. However, when I am working with models, let's say, even if I'm on a job and they know there's content that's going to be going out there, I always like to ask first, are you good with me sharing, whatever this photo or video on social? If they say yes, that's great. If they say no, sorry, then I don't. When I'm shooting content, I have an agreement with the modeling agency that I work with when I'm working with people for my content, like regular people, not models, and I'm going to be putting them in my courses or things online. I make them sign a model release because I don't want anyone coming back and saying we didn't have an agreement to, share the content that we shot. So that's what I do. That would always depend on where it is on the skin and also how intense it is, I guess you would say, how visible it is, and then what the client is expecting the end result to look like. So usually certain clients with melasma don't necessarily want to completely cover it in my experience. So a little bit of color correcting, just neutralizing the undertone of the melasma first, and then applying a little bit of concealer or sometimes a foundation over top is enough. Sometimes just a sheer foundation is good enough for some of my clients. So I don't necessarily cover it all the time, and I don't generally think for a lot of the work that I do, completely covering melasma actually, I think it doesn't actually look great sometimes because it's, you got to be comfortable with like full coverage, and it has to read a specific way on camera for a lot of the jobs I do. But normally my approach would be color correct the undertone of melasma first and then go over with concealer or foundation based on how much coverage my client wants. I have no idea. I haven't timed it. I don't know if it's 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. I have no idea. But what you can do some tests on your hand, put a little bit of the glue on the hand, and then set a timer and see how it feels to you after 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute to see what you're comfortable with in terms of the level of tackiness that you like. My approach is generally just to take a deeper shadow and focus it on the outer, let's say, third of the eye and just elongate the eye shape to give it more of a cat eye effect. And that usually takes down some of that roundness instead of just following the natural shape of the eye where you apply more like a halo style eye makeup. I will tend to go for more cat eye. I like, soft, deeper, not too dark because that's just not my style, but just a little bit along the lash line, and then the majority of that deeper shadow is going to be focused on the outer third, into this area here just to elongate. So that's how I would do it. I think the biggest tip I can give you is I can tell you that our work sometimes, and I've said this before, it just has to be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if you're constantly trying to be perfect, you're really fighting a losing battle, and you're going to end up screwing yourself big time if you are constantly trying to do everything perfectly, because it's just impossible. There's no such thing as perfect. And there's so many variables when we work. You're never going to have whatever you define as a perfect application. It's non-existent. It's not even a real thing. So I think if you want to succeed, it's something you have to get over quick, because a lot of the times we just have to do what we can in the time that we have. Or do what we can based on the people that we're applying makeup on. So perfectionism, it's great to be detail oriented and focused on certain things about your application, but when it gets to the point where it's jeopardizing your reputation and you're taking up people's time and you end up chasing something that, you know, is not achievable, it can be very detrimental. When you work as a freelancer, you're going to have times where you're going to have 5 clients book for the same day or ask you for availability on the same day for a job. You're going to have to turn down certain jobs in favor of people that have booked you early. You're going to have to take less money for certain jobs, because if you become known as somebody that kind of keeps people at bay, just waiting for another higher paying job, it's really bad for your reputation. And it's just not a good way to do business. So what happens for me, when things come in and they're confirmed, they go in my calendar as confirmed bookings. If I have a client ask me, no matter what the job, 3-day, 4-day, whatever it is, and they say, I need you on this day. If I'm booked, I'm booked. And that's just the way it goes. Things come back around. When you're honest with your clients, that's really works to your advantage. When you play the game of like waiting for the higher paying job or whatever, a lot of the times you're going to lose and you're going to get burnt, because it's tricky, but this is just the reality of how things work. This question was an interesting one, and I think there has to come a point where we just have to get the job done, especially with weddings. Sometimes you just have to be firm with your timing and you have to stick with it. And if that means less talking, then that's just what it means. And maybe some clients might perceive you as not that friendly, but you still have a job to do. The bride's paying you or whoever's paying you to get everyone done at a specific time, and you have to deliver on that. This type of question, though, just tells me that there's some overthinking going on here, because if you're thinking about this stuff, it just means that you're lacking some confidence in how you're presenting to your clients. And this fear of like how you are appearing to clients and what they may think of you if you say this or do this, it just shows that you just need to keep putting in more repetitions, doing more work, so that you become more confident in what you have to bring to the table, because you bring something of value. And how you do your work is how you do your work, and you'll get more comfortable with that. Oh my goodness, this is a great question. So my makeup light, number 1, don't even need to think twice about that. I have 2 makeup light panels. They are absolutely essential for me to work. I have a mini fan that I rely on all the time from Amazon, just a handheld rechargeable fan that I use to fan my clients if they're getting a hot flash, dry lash glue, dry setting spray, whatever it is. So those are my 2 things that I reach for the most. What else can I think of? I think those 2 are my most valuable, and then just my Canon G7X Mark II camera for sure, super valuable, because I love recording content on that. The work that I shoot on that looks absolutely amazing. But those are, I think, off the top, my 3 absolute essentials that are not makeup products. I'll break this down for you super easy. Remove any pre-existing oil on the lid with toner or with Bioderma. Get that lid nice and clean. You can't have any oil on there whatsoever. Choose a primer. I like Urban Decay, and I also like P. Louise. That just creates a barrier between the person's oil on their lid and the eyeshadow. And then just a good quality eyeshadow, and that's the best way to keep things crease proof. I don't use concealer as primer. This is, like, to me, dangerous game to play, because some concealers don't do well with keeping the oil at bay, and some concealers can start to separate over time, and it just creates a big problem. So for me, the cleaning off the eyelids, the primer, and then good quality shadow. So brands I like: Tarte, Viseart, Makeup by Mario, Patrick Ta, those all work for me, but they have to go over a primer for oily eyelids. Okay, I'll give you a couple recommendations of what I like to use. So the Real Techniques setting brush, I just have my brushes here, is a good one. I'll use that. I also like to use their eye brushes as as concealer brush. So this is the base shadow brush. This is really inexpensive. I think this one came in a set of 4. So any of their eye brushes are really good. I love this Rephr, I think it's a synthetic brush from Rephr. It's the B05 brush. This is the one that I use on myself, and I have another one in my kit. Love that one. And then the Sephora, I don't have it because I don't know where it is, but the Sephora 71 concealer brush, kind of similar shape to this one, is really great. And then this is another Sephora concealer brush that I picked up in a set that I also like. But sometimes small little synthetic brushes like this one from Real Techniques, I tend to lean on a lot just because they're like the perfect size to get in there, press things, buff things, and good shape. So those are the ones that I like. That is going to very much depend on the size of commercial that you're working on and the type of commercial that you're working on. So on the light end, it would just be sending an invoice after your shoot is wrapped, and you would communicate your booking policies and procedures to your producer or whoever booked you in those early stages when you're just talking about the job. Middle of the road would be like maybe a deal memo, maybe a non-disclosure agreement, and then your invoice or any payroll information that you have to fill out. On the like extreme end, there's certain jobs that I've done where it's been like an hour or 2 of paperwork back and forth with the production company. So background check, deal memo, non-disclosure, one for social media, one for on set. What else have I done? Did I say background check? Banking information, some payroll stuff, health and safety trainings. What else? There's also like training for like don't harass people on set. I can't remember what it's called, but stuff like that. So that's on the crazy end. I'm gonna have to say that I agree with this, but I'm gonna give this some context because I don't think it applies to like all part-time artists. I started as a part-time artist. I was very serious, very professional. We all start part-time for the most part. So I don't think a statement like this would apply to people who are just getting their feet wet, trying to build a business, taking things very seriously. I don't think this applies to that group of people. What I have a problem with as a full-time makeup artist who's trying to build my business and maintain a career are makeup artists, and I'll use this, who moonlight, who are just here to, it's something they like to do, just having fun, undercutting, not caring what industry standards are in terms of rates, behavior on set, not acting professional, not maintaining a kit, not being hygienic, just really not holding up the professional standards that we all need to make sure all of us are fairly compensated. That's the type of person that I cannot take seriously. On the other side of things, you have to think about the client's perspective. So if you were running a business and you worked with someone who you liked and they were only available once every 3 months because they have another job and your business is relying on a makeup artist to do, let's say, weekly, monthly photo shoots, it can be a little frustrating client side when you don't have someone that you can rely on. And when you don't have someone that you can trust, rely on, book consistently, book when you need them, clients will see this as somebody who's really not serious about being a makeup artist because they can just do a quick Instagram search or a quick search online and find, 100 makeup artists who will be there at the drop of a hat anytime they like because they're doing this full time. So that's how you have to think about it from client perspective. And even for me, finding assistants, if I like you as an assistant and I can't book you regularly and I can only get a hold of you every 7-8 months or every 3 months, I can't work with you. I created a spreadsheet in an app called Notion, which is a free app. It's an expiry date log, essentially. So every time I buy a product, I put in the date I purchased the product, the product expiry date. I also put in the expiry after opening date. Sorry, I need a coffee very badly. And then I program alerts through that spreadsheet to go off 1 to 3 months before the product expires. It really depends on what it is, to just remind me to start, using it up so things don't expire. And that's how I keep track of everything. I think normally we can tell when the client has really watery eyes, and sometimes you have to figure out what is causing the watering. Is it lights are too bright? Are they facing a window, or your lighting? Is it the the brush just touching the eye? My eyes water as soon as I start putting on eye makeup for whatever reason. So sometimes it's just contact with a brush will do it. Sometimes it's just sensitivity. Sometimes they're having a reaction to something. So you have to figure out why your client's eyes are watering and sort of troubleshoot from there. Sometimes they may need a break and you may need to stop working on their eyes and move on to the rest of the face. You do need to make sure you're absorbing all of the excess liquid. Normally I just take a Q-tip and kind of put it right here and it absorbs everything, or cotton pad, whatever. Sometimes your clients just might need to shut their eyes for 5 minutes. Sometimes you might need to use a cream shadow instead of a powder. And if your concealer's not staying put, I would say remove all the moisture that you can, whether it's through cotton swab or through a cotton pad, and then just make sure you have an actual waterproof concealer.